Yo guys, what's going on? My name is HackingIsFreedom and welcome to the 25th episode of What Was Cut, a series where we take a look at what exactly was cut from our favorite games. Today we're going to be talking about Grand Theft Auto 3. This is actually where I first started playing the GTA series because I personally just can't stand those overhead views like the first two had. Being the first GTA game I got my hands on, I played this game like crazy back in the day, and honestly, I love going back and looking at the older GTAs just to see how far we've come. Anywho, let's never say a word and figure out what was cut. Let's go over the textures first, as there isn't that many to talk about. Starting with the early logos that were shown in various early trailers and other media like magazines. This first one I believe is the earliest version of the logo, as it still seems to be in the style of GTA 2. These two I believe were made sometime in the alpha stage of development, and its last one is very similar to the final games but with some added color. This logo can actually be seen in an E3 build shown at a convention in May of 2001. I actually don't know why they changed it though. I really like the E3 version a lot more. These three images are loading screens from a cut multiplayer mode, which would have only been on PC. There's also an unused GameSpy logo that would have most likely shown up when connecting online, and there's even some texturing still left over as well. These textures aren't technically unused as they're seen in-game as billboard advertisements, but they do indicate cut radio stations. All three of these were seen in beta builds, but they were completely cut from the final game. Speaking of radio stations, KJAW Radio originally had a slightly different logo, and the slogan Reggae to Rock. Head Radio's logo was also changed up slightly as well. This icon of a cop car was supposed to be displayed on the minimap, but it's not really known why it would appear. I don't think cops were just going to appear on the minimap, as there would be a lot of these plastered on the radar, but my guess is this icon was used for a special event, like in the mission Kanbu Bustout. Your task was stealing a cop car and breaking a Yakuza gang member out of prison, so perhaps that's where this icon would have come into play, as an indicator for finding a cop car to steal. Finally, a lot of the textures were changed from the PS2 to the PC build. Nothing here was drastically changed, but I personally like the more vibrant colors. And for some reason, the PC loading screens featured GTA 3's logo in the corner, while it was completely absent from the PS2 version. We're on to the models now, but once again, there isn't that many to talk about. This first model is of a landmine, and it's completely unknown as to where it was supposed to be used. It's oddly not in the files with the other weapons, so it was either cut super early, or the purpose of it was different. This model actually appears in every GTA game from GTA 3 to Vice City Stories, completely unused of course. In an early screenshot of the game, you can spot an eerie face statue. This face even made it into a picture in the official strategy guide, so it must have been cut late in development. This is the best quality picture I could find of it, which comes from a mod recreation. Although it's believed that this is modeled after and a reference to the real-life Statue of Liberty's face, which is actually displayed in the Statue of Liberty Museum. This four-way joint for industrial piping is a leftover from when Shoreside Vale had a power plant. Fun fact actually, you know the high-res gas pipes stopping you from crossing into Shoreside Vale from Staunton Island? Those are actually a remnant of this power plant as well, because the textures for this four-way joint and the pipe textures are labeled very similar. There's actually 3 unused versions of vegetable boxes which were supposed to be seen around the Chinatown district. This one in the middle is the only one that actually made it into the game. However, it's placed behind the storefront's wall, so you can't see it normally. These are earlier renders of some of the weapons. Nothing on them changed too much, but the red muzzle on the Uzi reminds me of one of those cheap toy guns you'd find at like a dollar store. According to the GTA 3 game design document, this airport gate would have acted as a paywall in the mission Grand Theft Aero. Apparently you would have needed to pay a security guard an unknown amount of cash in order to gain access to the hangar containing Donald Love's package. This strange model seems to be a radar dome, and it's labeled as such too. You can actually see this re-implemented here, although it has no functionality. So the actual purpose of it is unknown, but perhaps it was tied to an early mission. Unless it was just supposed to sit at the airport and literally do nothing. There's a model of a small fish crate that I'm assuming was going to be placed around the China district in Raffles Fish Factory. A secondary damaged model exists too, which suggests this got pretty far in development before being scrapped. This lion statue was originally used in the beta version, and you can actually see it here. In the beta, this little area was just a small piece of land with the statues, but in the final game, this area is taken up by the Punk Noodle shop. This image from an old Rockstar developer's portfolio shows a few removed props, like this dumpster with graffiti, the Zaibatsu box, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this little white sign with the MasterCard texture wasn't used anywhere in the final game. Lastly, we have an unused camera pickup that seems to be an early version of the stunt cinematic camera. Funnily enough, this exact icon was used later in San Andreas as a snapshot indicator. Here you can see it being spawned in and activated in-game, thanks to Vadim M. We're now going to talk about the unused animations. Starting with this interesting one, this is actually the only animation not tied to the player, so it actually could have been used for any other NPC character. It's kind of funny that the developers made a drinking animation despite there not being any vending machines around Liberty City. Like, the only one that I know of is the one in Shoreside Vale's safe house. So maybe there were plans for you to be able to use that machine and restore health? The next 3 are all just variants of turns and twists. It's kind of strange that the developers didn't use these, as it would have made Cloud's movement look a lot more realistic. Did you know that Rockstar wanted first person in GTA 3? I'm assuming it didn't work well enough on the console versions for them to include it, but we can confirm this mode exists with this leftover texturing. And surprisingly, all of these animations have been restored. Starting with Unarmed, the baseball bat, the AK-47, the M16, the shotgun, and of course the Uzi. Proof that GTA 3 was way ahead of its time. We wouldn't actually see first person properly introduced until 13 years later when GTA 5 came out. Man, that's just crazy. These last ones are also very interesting. There's a few animations left over in the game files that use the new skeletal mesh found in the NPCs of GTA Vice City. Because if you didn't know, Vice City was originally developed as an add-on to GTA 3. As you can see here, they're all types of walking animations, and the reason Tommy Vercetti is used is because of the skeletal mesh I mentioned previously. None of these animations can be viewed if you use a model from GTA 3, they need the new skeletal mesh. The various cut and changes to vehicles are up next, and oh man, we got a lot to go over. We're going to start with the Secura car first, which was just named Armored Truck in the beta stages, although not much was changed with its overall model. The Perennial wasn't much different in body shape either, although it was originally called Maurice, and the trunk used to open like an old school hatchback. Sadly, this functionality doesn't exist anymore, but you can see the car in game here.
Young man,
Going to Aruba.
there's a place you can go.
No good.
There's no need to feel down.
The Infernus was originally called Diablo, and it was obviously based off the Lamborghini Diablo. Just in case you needed some extra convincing, take a look at the earliest design of the Infernus. It almost looks exactly like the Lamborghini Diablo. Here's some gameplay.
What's up?
You beat up going by.
The Ballista was simply known as Carrier, and you can see it wasn't changed all that much. The beta version has squarer headlights, a bit of a longer bumper, and no rear license plate. The Line Runner was originally called Semi-Cab, or Freight, and it was basically just lacking the extra details. This is a completely unknown car. It was never seen in any pre-release media, nor was it seen in the final game. Although this render did come from Rockstar's official site, so it was most definitely planned to be added at some point. To me, it looks like an early version of the Tahoma from GTA San Andreas, but that's just my guess. The ambulance was pretty much complete as well, just lacking a lot of the hospital decals and the headlights were a bit different. Here's an in-game look.
Come over for dinner. You got his number?
And same with the fire truck, it was pretty much just lacking a lot of the decals. You can see it in-game here. The Enforcer was originally known as SWAT Van, and nothing much was changed with the model besides the color. Strangely, this earlier model has additional modeling for the whole side of the truck being blown off. I wonder if this is a remnant of an early mission idea. Just like the Enforcer, the police car wasn't changed besides the color of the police livery. Although, surprisingly, the police boat was changed quite a bit. It seems like it was originally based off of the Reefer model, but I guess it was changed later down the line to a more of a speedboat type of design. The barracks wasn't changed that much, it was simply known as Army Truck in the beta, and the taillights were a little smaller. The Panto sadly never made it into the final game. It was only seen in this render and some beta gameplay footage. Although with a mod, we can take a look at it in game.
You know?
The mother might know trouble for me.
Going to
The Manana wasn't changed that much, although it was originally called Ariant, and it had slightly bigger headlights. The Rhino was changed drastically. It originally looked like an APC, similar to the one seen in the Battle of Gaetoni. I actually kinda wish that they kept this earlier design though. I've always thought that the Rhino in the final game looked like Play-Doh. The Banshee was originally called Shark, and it was obviously heavily based off of a 2001 Porsche Boxster. The Kuruma was originally known as Sentinel, and it was pretty much the same as the final games, just having more of a slanted nose, different headlights, and the muffler tip is missing. Fun fact, this model in the final game is labeled as Intrepid internally, obviously referencing the real-life car it's modeled after, that being the 2001 Dodge Intrepid. The Bobcat wasn't really changed that much, but it didn't seem to have this trim, the headlights and the front bumper were much bigger, and it was plainly named Pickup in the beta. The cheetah was originally named Rocket, and mainly the back of it was changed. Here's an in-game showcase.
We're going to Aruba.
That's great, did you know that?
The Moonbeam was originally named Aster, and it was quite obviously based on the Chevy Astro minivan. Not much was changed besides the grille and the taillights. The Pony was actually one of the most complete in the early stages, just lacking the paneling details. Here's a quick look at it in game. The BF injection was actually changed quite a lot. As you can see, the beta version was extremely simple in design, lacking the roll cage, the secondary trim, a steering wheel, the entire engine and muffler tips, and this beta version's damage model is actually crazy. Apparently most, if not all of the pieces would have been able to fall off. This, however, was most likely scrapped for performance reasons. Although driving this car around in-game just feels very strange. Like, I'm not really sure what it is, but it's just strange. The mule was also changed quite a bit, at least the cab was. It was originally called Luton, which is actually the name of the real-life vehicle it's modeled after, that being the Ford Transit Luton van. Other than that though, not much else was changed. Here's a quick look at it in game.
The boss man wants it.
The Stretch was originally known as Limo, and was obviously modeled after the real-life Lincoln Town Car limousine, although in the final game, it was kinda changed to look more like a Cadillac limo. The Patriot was pretty much complete in the early stages, once again just lacking the extra details. It was originally known as the Humvee, and the lights were changed from square to round. The Sentinel was only changed up slightly. It was originally called Beamer, as if it didn't already look like a BMW, and the only difference really is the taillights. Mr. Whoopi was a bit more basic in the beta stages, lacking all of the ice cream advertisements. The grille and headlights were changed, and the taillights were changed slightly as well. It also didn't have a unique name yet, it was just known as Ice Cream Truck. The bus was originally a school bus, and I'm sure a lot of you know about this one, but this was likely cut to avoid controversy, because children in GTA games, well, they don't mix well. Here's what it looks like in game. It was actually kind of fun driving this bus around, but it definitely feels very out of place. And we're going to finish off the cars with this very mysterious one. This image was shown off in an issue of Edge magazine, and it shows an early version of Chinatown with a Volkswagen Beetle type of car near the bottom. This seems to be a completely unknown car, as nothing even close to this design showed up in the GTA series until GTA 5. Time to go over the various changes done to Liberty City itself. This is the earliest version of Liberty City, and it was designed around October of 2000. Right off the bat, there's some massive differences, like this whole top area being cut. This small area off Portland was removed, the bridge to Shoreside Vale was different, there didn't seem to be a bridge connecting Portland to Staten Island yet, and Staten Island itself was much bigger. This is an early version of just Staten Island, and this was designed around February of 2001, after they scrapped the design of the previous map. As you can see, the developers really wanted to add this extra piece at the top of Staten Island, but alas, it was fully removed in the final game. Although, it seems like the bridge from Staten Island to Portland was somewhat started in this stage. This next map was a bit later in development. I'm not exactly sure on the time frame, but it still shows some massive differences. Like the airport being very unfinished, the bridge from Portland to Staten Island still wasn't quite made yet. Portland seems to be a lot bigger in this stage, and I'm not entirely sure, but this road outline looks like Portland once had an underground tunnel. Although, it could just be the subway. The bridge from Portland to Staten Island used to feature two of these support beam pillar things, and I'm guessing this was changed when the size of Staunton was changed as well. The Liberty Pharmaceuticals building originally had two smokestacks on the roof. I have no idea why this was cut. It was either for performance reasons, or perhaps the developers just didn't like the look of the building with the smokestacks on it. Finally, the stadium was surprisingly changed quite a bit. It lacked the Cox branding on the seats, the red and blue color scheme was completely absent, it originally had two scoreboards, and in the final game, all the lights seemed to use the same model, while the early version used two different light models. There's obviously a lot more changes done to the map throughout development, but I'd be here forever showing them all off, so let's just move on. The cut characters are up next, and there's definitely a lot of interesting ones. Like this first one, this is a fully working pedestrian variant of Leon McCaffrey from the mission Plaster Blaster. Perhaps there were plans for him to fall out of or run out of the ambulance? Other than that, I'm not really sure what this pedestrian could have been used for. This next character seems to be a unique variant of a Mafia gang member. He has a rough-looking face and a dark blue suit that isn't seen on any other gang member. He's internally named Mafia Goon, so that sadly doesn't give us any more info. The generic male 01 NPC was changed quite significantly. He originally wore a suit, carried a briefcase, and actually had 2 different head models. The generic fat female NPC was way different. Although sadly this model was never seen in any pre-release media, so we don't know what she would have looked like. But you can see by the base design, she's pretty different. The generic fat male 01 NPC was very different as well. He was black and apparently wore a suit. Nothing like the final game's NPC. Fat Male 02 was also changed up a bit. He originally used to carry a boombox and wore urban-style b-boy clothing. This model is labeled as Low Poly Guy, and this is just an NPC used in very early stages of development, similar to the default actor if you've seen my Call of Duty videos. The Triads gang used to sport spiky hair, pretty similar to Claude's. The Diablos gang had a slightly different design, as you can see in this screenshot. This model here is labeled as COL3, standing for Colombian 3, and oddly, Colombian 1 and 2 still get used in the final game in a few cutscenes, but this guy was sadly fully cut. Judging by the red muzzle on the Uzi, this was probably cut early in development. I'm sure you guys have heard of Darkel, but he was a cut storyline character. He was a revolutionary vagrant that led a gang of violent bums, and his goal was pretty much to destroy Liberty City's economy with acts of terrorism. Judging by when this game was developed, I'm sure you can understand why this was removed. Interestingly, one of the missions he was supposed to give you is the mission I Scream, You Scream, where you basically bait Mafia gang members into getting ice cream from an explosive-rigged Mr. Whoopi truck. This actually would have been very fitting for Darkel. Fun fact though, his voice actor Bill Fiore is actually still listed in the final game's credits for some reason. German DJ Tom Navi was intended to be in the game at some point, as his song Back to the Streets was used in an early trailer, and the song was supposed to be featured on the in-game radio station Head Radio. He also has a low poly model found only in the PC version, implying that he was used outside of cutscenes. This butler NPC was supposed to be used for only one cutscene in the mission Wakakashira Wipeout, as evident by this texturing here, although it's not really known why he was removed. These 4 models are all labeled as Busker with their respected number. Surprisingly, all of these NPCs are fully functional only in the PS2 version. Their spawns are just disabled. These NPCs would have definitely livened up the map with their uniqueness. I have no idea why they removed these. In some wallpaper art posted by Rockstar, you can see an earlier version of Donald Love, who was actually named Nick Love in the beta stages. You can just barely see that he's wearing a white shirt with a pale purple tie, and it seems like his facial textures were cleaned up just a little bit as well. This character is completely unknown. This image comes from a convention held sometime in 2015 where Rockstar had a whole bunch of GTA memorabilia and storyboards on display. This could be an early version of a gang member, a generic NPC, or an unknown story character. I honestly have no idea. Definitely put your guesses down in the comment section, I'd love to see them. Finally, we're going to end with Claude himself. This I believe is the earliest design of Claude. He then moved on to this style, which is actually pretty close to the final, but still not quite. Honestly, this outfit here makes him look like Ace Ventura. Getting out of the concept art, this is how he looked in a lot of pre-release media. Personally, I think he looked very Hispanic in the original stages. In the later beta stages, closer to release, he looked more like this. His face got a complete rework and he seemed to be a bit chunkier at this point in development. As we come to the end of the video, it's time for the oddities I found throughout the game. In a lot of pre-release media, female taxi drivers can be spotted, however this was obviously removed in the final game. Oddly enough, no future GTA titles ever use a female cab driver. Maybe we'll see this in GTA 6. 2 wireframe tests from an early point in development were leaked on the internet at some point before the game was released. This first one is a test for stealing cars, and the second one is a test for gang interactions. It seems there were once plans for you to be able to heal yourself when walking up to the hospital, as there's leftover text indicating you can heal at the hospital for a fee. Very similar to how it works in GTA 4. There's another strange leftover telling you that you're already on a mission. This implies that mission markers would not disappear when already on a mission, which is very strange. There's a pretty funny yet pointless jump glitch you can do only on the PC version. If you hold W, jump, then mash the ASD keys, you can jump like this. This obviously doesn't do anything beneficial, but it's pretty funny to watch, and it actually adds some flair to your jumping. I'm sure y'all know about this one, but grab a bobcat and head to the north entrance of the harbor tunnel. You'll eventually come across some bums. Get out and jump on the roof of your car. Now just walk back and forth on the hood and the roof and you'll continuously spawn 4 sets of bums. Each one of these bums carries a Molotov, so it's a great way to stack up on them. Just make sure you keep the bums on screen. If not, they will all despawn like you're seeing here. In Portland, where the line runner spawns, there's a small hole in the map's collision, meaning you can fall right through it. At the top of Portland, you can do a similar map glitch by landing your driver's side up with this cliff. Simply get out and poof, you're under the map. You can use this to either see the map in a cool way, or you can use it to get to Staten Island early. There's actually another way to get to Staten Island early, and it's known as the bridge skip. You simply run off this beam and try to aim for this part here. It's much easier to do on PC, but it can be done on the console versions as well. This cafe storefront has a bit of extra branding only seen on the PC version. Claude, for some reason, has an almost identical model labeled as Player X, and surprisingly, this is actually the model used in cutscenes. His pants are a much higher resolution, and the soles of his shoes are actually fully textured. And for some strange reason, he seems to use the old beta facial textures. Did you know you can get a car that can drive through any building without hacks or cheats? Simply get in a taxi and pick up a passenger. Make sure that they get in the front passenger seat. Now go to the car crusher and block your driver's side door. Press and hold the button to end the taxi mission while exiting the car. Once you see the magnet get attached, quickly enter the car and release the end mission button once you're in the driver's seat. And voila, you're done. You can now drive wherever and through whatever you want. Speaking of the car crusher, there's actually leftover text for when you get killed by it. As you know, the car crusher's magnet will only attach to a car if there's no driver in it. Even if you somehow glitch or no-clip into the crusher with a car, the game will still display the wasted message. So I guess there were plans to be able to get killed by this thing at some point in development. Ah, Ghost Town. You knew it had to be in the video somewhere. Ghost Town, as the community has called it, is basically a leftover asset from the introduction of the game. In the cutscene to the mission Give Me Liberty, you can see Ghost Town for roughly about 30 seconds before it's never seen again. Because it was used in a cutscene, it's by far one of the most detailed areas in the game. Everything in this area normally doesn't have collision, but I'm using a mod to showcase it better. And the only way to get here without mods is to fly the Dodo or use the Flying Rhino glitch. On GTA 3's map, you can find several hidden names of developers way out of bounds, and you can actually find this in-game if you use the Dodo or the Flying Rhino trick. Obbyberg is referring to Obby Vermeij, a technical director. I'm sorry if I butchered that. Aaronsville is referring to Aaron Garbett, an art director. Woodcunty is referring to Alistair Wood, a 3D artist. Les County refers to Leslie Benzies, a producer. Gary's Town is referring to Gary McAdam, another 3D artist. Chris's Town refers to Chris Rothwell, a designer. And finally, Adamton refers to either Adam Fowler, another 3D artist, or Adam Cochran, a technical director. You may have seen this in the short I made, but for whatever reason, if you stay on the first mission, after the first night, the sky's colors will glitch out hardcore. I'm pretty sure this is just a glitch, and it has something to do with the beta's day and night cycle. I thought it was pretty cool nonetheless. The last oddity I have for you is this unused intro, and this can actually still be accessed in the final game with some slight modifications. And that's all I have for Grand Theft Auto 3. If you'd like to see even more unused GTA 3 content, I suggest to go take a look at GTA Series Video's YouTube channel. They have a lot more information that was only given out to them. Also, check out Adam M for other removed GTA stuff as well. I'm a big fan of his content. Anywho, if you have a suggestion for the next What Was Cut episode, please feel free to comment down below. With that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.